In 1950, Buffalo, New York was the 15th largest city in America. Over the next 60 years, it lost more than half its people. This is the story of the one decision that took away the reason it existed. To see why it emptied out, you have to see why it filled up, and that starts with the shape of the water. The Great Lakes hold a fifth of the world's surface fresh water. But between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, the water drops about 325 feet over Niagara Falls. No cargo boat could pass. So everything moving between the upper lakes and the ocean had to stop where the lakes ran out. That place was Buffalo. In 1825, they built a way around the falls, the Erie Canal, 363 miles of ditch from Buffalo east to Albany, where the Hudson River carried the freight the rest of the way to New York. But a canal boat is small and a lake ship is big. Cargo couldn't float straight through. At Buffalo, everything was lifted off the big ships and reloaded, first onto narrow canal boats and later onto rail cars. That forced transfer had a name, break of bulk, and it was the entire reason the city existed. The canal made it worth it. Moving a ton of freight from Buffalo to New York by road cost around $100. By canal, about $10, close to a 90% drop. The trip that took weeks by wagon now took about 10 days by water. The whole middle of the country suddenly had a cheap road to the sea, and it ran straight through one city. At the grand opening, a boat carried a keg of Lake Erie water all the way to New York and poured it into the Atlantic. They called it the Wedding of the Waters. A village was about to become a world port. In 1825, Buffalo was a village of a couple thousand people. By 1850, it was the 16th largest city in the country, 42,000 people, and climbing fast. Everything that made Buffalo rich came from one fact: cargo had to stop here. Hold on to that, because it is also what killed it. Before Buffalo could get rich, it had a bottleneck: getting the grain out of the ships. It was done by hand, by gangs of Irish dock workers they called scoopers. A full crew, working only in fair weather, could empty about 2,000 bushels a day. A single ship could take days to unload. In 1842, a Buffalo merchant named Joseph Dart and an engineer named Robert Dunbar built a machine to fix it, the first steam-powered grain elevator. A steam-driven belt of buckets dropped straight into a ship's hold and lifted the grain up into storage. Now a ship could arrive, unload, and leave the same day. In its first year, the machine moved over 229,000 bushels. The bottleneck was gone, and the city started to grow around the machine. One elevator in 1843 became about 40 by the turn of the century, packed along the Buffalo River in a stretch they called Elevator Alley. By 1898, those elevators could hold nearly 21 million bushels and move more than 5 million every single day. By the end of the Civil War, Buffalo was one of the largest grain ports on earth. The grain was bought and sold in Chicago, but nearly all of it had to pass through Buffalo. The grain brought mills. By 1930, Buffalo was the largest flour milling center in the world. And just up the river, Niagara Falls gave the city something almost no one else had: cheap electric power. It reached Buffalo in 1896, the largest power transmission of its day. In 1901, Buffalo threw a World's Fair, lit up every night by that power. They called it the City of Light. Then came steel. Around 1902, one of the largest steel works in the world moved to the edge of the city, at Lackawanna. Grain, steel, and cheap power stacked into one of the richest cities in America. In 1900, it was the 8th largest city in the country, 352,000 people. It kept climbing. Buffalo hit its peak in 1950, 580,000 people, the 15th largest city in America, and all of it still rested on one fact: cargo had to stop here. Then, in one stroke, that fact stopped being true. For over a century, there was no way for a full ocean ship to reach the lakes. Until in 1959, there was. Ships could already get around Niagara Falls. A canal in Canada, the Welland, had done that since 1829 and taken the big lake ships since 1932. Passing the falls was never the problem. The real wall was downriver, below Lake Ontario, where the St. Lawrence River drops to the sea through rapids. That stretch was bypassed only by shallow canals, about 14 feet deep, too shallow for an ocean ship. So a full ocean ship still could not run the whole way. Western grain kept crossing the lakes to Buffalo, changing ships and going east, same as it always had. In 1954, the United States and Canada started digging. 5 years, 7 new locks, a deep channel blasted through the rapids, 27 feet, deep enough for the ocean ships. They finished in 1959, the St. Lawrence Seaway. A ship could now sail 2,300 miles inland, from the Atlantic all the way to Duluth. This is what it meant for Buffalo. Grain could now be loaded in Duluth or Thunder Bay and sail straight to the ocean. It never had to change ships, and it never had to come to Buffalo at all. One historian put it plainly. With no reason for any ship to come to Buffalo, the city sat bypassed, at the end of a long dead-end street. The grain went with it. A good year before the Seaway brought about 200 million bushels into Buffalo. By the 1990s, it was down to around 20 million. Grain leaving the city by rail fell from 7.5 million bushels in 1958 to 73,000 in 1964, a near total collapse in 6 years. The Seaway opened with a ceremony. President Eisenhower, Queen Elizabeth, and Canada's Prime Minister celebrating the new route. In the same year, Buffalo's old one died. By one account, the port of Buffalo moved about 24 million tons of cargo in 1957. By the 1970s, about 9. But the Seaway did not do it alone, and the honest story has to say so. The Seaway fired first, but the city was already being worn down from other directions for years before 1959. The canal built Buffalo. Even after railroads and interstates took over its freight, the grain still had to change vessels right here. The Seaway is the one thing that let cargo skip the city completely. Then there was steel. Bethlehem's plant at Lackawanna was the nation's third-largest steel mill. In the World Wars, more than 20,000 people worked there. In 1983, Bethlehem shut the steelmaking down. 7,300 people lost their jobs in a single blow. A skeleton crew of about 1,300 stayed to run what was left. The blast furnaces went cold. The coke ovens hung on until 2001. Then even they went quiet. The town of Lackawanna lost about $4 million a year in taxes. It laid off 100 city workers and 18 police officers. And people were leaving the city for one more reason. They were moving to the suburbs. The county around Buffalo barely shrank. The city inside it lost half its people. Every one of these hurt. Railroads, steel, the suburbs. But they wounded a working city. The Seaway took away the reason it worked at all. So what does a city look like after the reason it existed is gone? Today, the grain elevators still stand along the Buffalo River. The machines that made the city, empty now and silent. It is now the densest collection of concrete grain elevators left anywhere in the world. The machines outlived the reason anyone ever built them. Buffalo lost people for 60 straight years, from 580,000 in 1950 down to a low of 261,000 in 2010, less than half its peak. Then in 2020, for the first time in 70 years, the count went up a little, 278,000. Buffalo's rank was already slipping for 50 years before the Seaway ever opened, 8th largest in 1900, 15th by 1950. Other cities were simply outgrowing it. The Seaway did not invent Buffalo's decline, but it removed the one thing the whole city was built around. And most of the people did not go far. They moved to the suburbs. The region survived. The city at its center did not. A city can lose people and still recover. Buffalo lost the one reason it existed. It was built to be the place cargo had to stop. The moment ships no longer had to stop, the city was finished. A city built on being in the way dies the day the way moves.